Ready.
Okay, you want me to start it? Okay, ready to start. Hello and welcome everybody. This is our week 16 of Just One Thing for Health and our live calls on Tuesday nights. And we are very, very excited to have Alicia Sirkin with us to answer your questions. And before we hand it off to Alicia with questions, I would also like to introduce Lynn Hawkins, who's been our project manager and has done such an amazing job carrying this project as it's been unfolding so beautifully. And we are really excited because our initial goal has been to have 30 weeks feature 30 different doctors and practitioners with their wonderful Just One Thing challenge. And this is week 16, so we've just crossed over into the second half. We have successfully come through the first half, and with so many wonderful doctors, so many wonderful challenges and tips. And if you haven't seen all the videos, I invite you to look at all of them and take on some of these challenges. The challenges are simple and basic and help us change our lives for one that's much healthier and happier so that we can live long and happy and die fast. And as Dr. Furman's saying, live long and die fast, meaning happy and healthy, and then die quickly, not to be lingering with chronic diseases, the terrible diseases that so many people suffer from. So thank you for joining us, and I'm so happy to have Alicia Sirkin with us tonight. Actually, she's a very special person in my life. It was, she's coached me, and we had actually launched this whole project in a coaching session with Alicia. She helped me get clarity and motivation and connect to the wonderful things that I expected would be the outcomes of this program and to help so many people change their lives and move forward. So welcome, Alicia.
Thank you, Peter. What a beautiful introduction, and it's been such a joy to work with you and help launch this whole incredible program that's so valuable to our subscribers.
Yes, thank you. And I so love what you've said in your video, and I know Lynn has some questions to ask you, but I really loved when you talked about celebrating and appreciating. I think that's such an important part of our lives when we get to something that feels good, something that's working, to take the moment to celebrate and appreciate. That just creates more of it. So that gives us the momentum to keep going and do so much more.
Yes, thank you. It's really true. Yeah, what we put out, of course, we receive. So the more we put out joyfulness and appreciation of what we've accomplished in our life personally, the more we attract more of those wonderful things that we have set our intention and our goals towards.
Well, Lynn, you have some questions that you'd like to start off with?
Well, Peter, as a matter of fact, I do. And I want to first say thank you for acknowledging what I've been able to contribute to the project. It has truly been a joy, and really to work with people like you and Alicia and the doctors that have come before her, and getting through this first 15 plus weeks. It's been a journey and lots of great information, and I just want to encourage our audience to take advantage of this information that's going out. The doctors have done an amazing job, and having Alicia here to really kind of bring us into the end of the year, to the beginning of this holiday season, and having heard her story, I just have to ask her to share it with our audience because it's incredible. I love it. Alicia, please tell us how it is you got on this journey that you've been on now for over 30 years.
Well, where shall we begin? It's, I think when I was 20 years old, actually, I first, after being a I want to say sugar addict and very, very much overweight, and got to a point where I just couldn't fit in my largest size clothes. And I had been comfort eating for years and years because my dad had his first heart attack when I was 6 years old, which was when I began comfort food eating and yo-yo dieting and being overweight and having a lot of emotional pain because of all of that. And at that point, when I started having some symptoms of chronic illness, at the time when I was so large, I couldn't fit into my largest size pants, which was a size 16. And of course, I'm a 4, really. Have been for so many decades. I had an emotional breakdown. And I realized that I was really on a downward spiral. And if I kept that up, I would end up dying young like my dad. So I realized that I had to take charge. And if I was going to be healthy and whole and well, that I had to set a strong intention. And I did in that moment when I had a breakdown and I realized this is it. I don't want to do this anymore like I've been doing it. I don't want to live like I've been living because I'm going to be sick and like I might watch my dad be sick. And so what I did is I went to, lose the weight and eat very, very healthy. I wasn't whole foods plant-based at the time, but I gave up the sugar. I gave up the things that were not helping me. And all of us at any point in our life, really internally, we really get the certain things that our body loves and our body doesn't love, because we'll get signs and symptoms. And we have a choice. We can pay attention to it or we can ignore it and push it under the rug, right? And there will be various times in our life when we'll go up and down with that. And that's okay, because life is about learning lessons. And so that was my big lesson. And what I saw when I gave up some of the more offending foods was that I felt more energy, I felt more whole, I felt better, but I wasn't really well. Even though I lost the weight, I wasn't really well because I was still eating cheese and beef and chicken and whatnot. So, and white sugar to some degree, a little bit at that point. And so what happened for me is I went along for about 10 years and I was like, okay, the major health crisis seemed to be subsiding. And it wasn't until I had a breast lump. Oh, by the way, the time I was 25, the doctor told me, because my fibrocystic condition was so severe when I was 25, the surgeon told me, young lady, in cases like yours, we recommend that you have a double mastectomy because we cannot evaluate you for cancer. Well, I broke down and sobbed in the office. I mean, here I am, a young woman, and to have news like that was just shocking. It was really shocking, and it shocked me to my core. And so I did not follow his advice to do the prophylactic work, surgery. And instead, I opted to take another route. I went to another doctor, a gynecologist, obstetrician, to monitor me more frequently and keep an eye and whatnot. And about 7 years later, I had a lump that was different from the rest. And the doctor at the time felt it might have been a cancerous lesion, tumor. So he had me go in and he said, I want you to have a biopsy and another mammogram because I had been having frequent mammograms. I just, at that moment, I thought to myself, my goodness, here I am 32 years old. If I start getting biopsies now with this fibrocystic condition, I'm going to have scars everywhere all over my breast. It's going to look like a road map. And I just thought about that. And I thought, let me go see if there are some other options. And so I went to a macrobiotic counselor, which is a lot, mostly vegan. It's vegan, healing diet. And he put me on a cancer prevention program. And it was very strict. It was all whole food, plant-based. Everything was vegan. He gave me the option to do that or to go in and get the biopsy first and then see what happens for the future. I opted not to do the biopsy for 2 months. I opted to do the diet for 2 months. And after the 2 months of eating total clean foods, meaning all plant-based, and with some healing condiments and whatnot as well, things that do clear the body of fats and tumors and things. What happened for me is when I went into the radiologist, here I am thinking I have the worst possible situation in the world, and the radiologist couldn't find anything. Nothing, zip, it was gone. And so she says, bye, I'll see you in 3 years for your next, follow-up. And my mouth dropped open. Here I had felt I was living with time bombs, that any minute something would turn cancerous. And then she tells me there's nothing there after there was this lump that the doctor palpated and said it was different than the rest of the lumps. And so to this day, I have never had a biopsy. I'm 71. To this day, I have never even had a suspicious anything to be looked at or followed up on. And I truly believe that the way the food and then my lifestyle practices, because I changed some lifestyle practices, it's not about just the food. It's about mindset. It's about lifestyle practices and the food. And there's some other things thrown in on the side. But for me, making that choice, making that, in setting that strong intention to be well and whole and do whatever it took to be the best that I could. And in terms of making choices, positive choices for myself, even if it meant they were not so much fun sometimes. I chose wellness. I chose to be a healthy person. I didn't want to be a sick person as I got older. And so that's my story. Here I am. Here I am teaching what I learned through my own life experience.
Wow, what a story. Thank you for that. That is so encouraging to feel like you're on the brink of despair and actually facing death. I mean, we all probably know someone that's passed from breast cancer or cervical cancer. I mean, it is really sad that people do not know the information that you and these doctors are sharing that can save lives. So thank you for sharing that. I hope so many people get to hear that story. It's very inspiring.
Thank you. Thank you.
How did you originally make that connection between food and nutrition and health?
Well, what I didn't tell you was that I'm a retired dental hygienist. So at the time when I had the first health scare, I was a newly graduated dental hygienist. And after living and studying in the medical model, my dad was a dentist. I grew up around doctors and dentists and medicine, and that was all I knew. And I think the first time I understood that there was, because I had nutrition courses as part of my curriculum. So nutrition courses really encompassed the physical attributes of the food, the proteins, learning about proteins and the trace minerals and the carbs and so on. And that's what I thought food was about, that food had properties that helped the cells be fed so that they could procreate and keep our life going. What I didn't know was that foods within themselves have different properties. And when I started learning about this vegan macrobiotic program that helped me heal, I understood that food had different qualities beyond what I learned in my nutrition courses in college. And they have properties like paying attention to whether they turn the blood acid or whether they turn the blood alkaline, for example. Now, an acid blood condition, which meats and cheeses and chicken and various animal products, those will turn the blood acidic. Now, when there's acidic blood, it opens pathway for cancer cells to thrive and survive, and for pathogens as well, and it does lower immune function when there's excess. And so I learned about that. I also learned that there are foods that are more neutral and more alkalizing to the blood. And the vegetables and fruits and things like that, even lemon, even though it's tart and acidic outside of the body, it actually helps to alkalize the blood. And so there are those kinds of qualities. So when I began the study of different kinds of qualities of food and how they can help support positive immune function and more strength of the immune system with stronger cell walls and gut walls and so on, it was really an eye-opener, so that I learned beyond what I learned in nutrition. And I also learned that food has energy and the life force of the food is important. So many times we'll open up a can of something. I used to before I changed to whole foods, eating whole foods, or microwave foods or whatever. And those are dead foods. They don't have life force energy. Whereas the whole foods and the plant-based foods, they have a life force energy. And that helps our body and it supports health in our body. So those are the kinds of things that I like to include in my concept of what I want to provide for myself every day.
Amazing. That's great information and a great reference for us to think back to and consider as we're looking at our own journeys. Yeah, the life force energy. And this Q&A is about our audience asking questions, and we got some questions ahead of the call, and we're going to be checking the chat box and making sure that we grab any questions that people might have. So bear with me as I'm maneuvering here, but one of our comments came through that they really loved the information about the life force energy that is in food. So Alicia, I know that there are audience members who want to know if you had children and raised children in your whole food, plant-based lifestyle. And how did you do that if you did?
Okay, that's a great question. Every one of us is very unique, and every one of us has a personality and an ego and a desire to move through the world and life in a certain way, in a way that's unique and true to each individual and to each of us. And so we have my husband and I, we have a son, and I must say we have a lovely daughter-in-law as well. And when I was working to raise him, and I was very conscious of wanting to raise him to understand and learn about and eat the whole foods. And I think he was already he was like 2 or 3 years old when I ventured into whole foods plant-based. And so I did my best to introduce him to the healthy foods. And it was in terms of a mom that wanted to have my son be mindful of eating healthy. I noticed that his choices were different, and they were going to be different than my choices. And so eventually, in the beginning, there was a little chafing, between my choices and his choices. And in the end, what I needed to do was really, in order to just love and appreciate who he is as a unique individual, basically what I did was I learned to let go of my preconceived ideas about whether it's my job to tell him everything he should be doing for his wellness, and allow him to be the unique individual he is and make his own choices. Because bottom line, what I recognized was that our loving relationship was more important than what he ate. And that if he was going to make choices in life, it's his journey. And so, as I matured, in the beginning, I was very controlling, right? And especially in his adolescence. And what I recognized was that was then, I was feeling more distant from him, because he didn't like being told what he should be having. Should. Notice I say the word should, right? Be having. Should according to my perception, but not his. And so it was very important. That was a big, big lesson for me as a parent, to recognize that it's his journey, not mine, and that all I can do is take care of myself and be well and whole as much as I can be. And if nothing else, it serves as an example. He knows that there's this option that he can choose if he ever wishes to. And I just love the heck out of him, and whatever his choices are, that's the beauty of life. That's him doing his thing and living his life his way. And that's the most important to me, that he does his life his way. So that's a great question.
That's a great answer. Thank you. For those of us who are moms and trying to figure that out, or grandmothers like myself, you do wonder what the best direction is. And I think, when you settle into love, it's easy to come back to that being the most important element. And who did you have coming along this journey with you, especially in the early years? besides the people who were teaching you this, were there people outside of that circle that were doing something similar?
Yes. First of all, my husband joined me in this journey initially for many, many years, a decade and a half, actually. We took this journey together with the whole foods, plant-based, macrobiotic style of veganism journey. And so that was lovely. And I was very fortunate because in the area where I live, Coconut Grove, Florida, which is a part of Miami, there was a macrobiotic community. And so there was a macrobiotic center and everyone would get together for potlucks. And it was tremendous support, tremendous support. There was a chef that would cook meals. Everybody would meet for meals. There were lectures. I mean, it was just fabulous. It was tremendous support. So I was very fortunate.
Good to know, because one of the objectives of the Just One Thing for Health program is to actually start some of these types of communities and groups.
I was just about to say that, actually, was that this wonderful group, the Hippocrates Docs Just One Thing for Health group, is a wonderful opportunity for all of us to meet together as a community. And we'll just do it virtually. It's not in our neighborhood, but it's virtually, and that's just that's as good, maybe even better, because we get, can be larger support.
Yes, yes, thank you for that. So what do you think is the biggest obstacle that people face as they're embarking on this journey?
Well, I think there are a few. I think fear of the unknown is one of them. Different kinds of fears. Fear of rejection by friends and family, doing something that's so off the wall or unique, or, well, not so much unique anymore. I mean, when I was doing it in the early 80s, I guess it was really, no one heard of veganism. I mean, first of all, okay, and macrobiotic healing approach. I mean, hardly anyone knew what that was either. So I was kind of, I don't know what my family thought, but I mean, thank goodness they didn't throw me out the door, but I'm sure they questioned my choices at the time. And so from that regard, it was, there was a lot of concern and fear about, what would they think, how do they act, and so on. And there are family members and friends that just say, what are you doing? And, putting you down and making you feel bad about making healthy choices. And that comes from their own perception and their own fears, or inability to recognize the uniqueness of each one of us, and that you have to just love someone for who they are and for all their choices, even if their choices are a little off the wall or a little weird or uncalled for in someone's perception. So fear is a big one, and there are many kinds of fear. And the other one is, I think, feelings of, I don't know if I can do this. I've dieted in the past, and I've changed my life in the past, and I've tried different ways to eat, and it never really did anything, and I never really was able to stay on it. And a lot of self-doubt comes up in a person's feelings of whether or not they can be successful in doing this and making these kinds of changes. So those are the real big ones, I think. Does that make sense? Is that ring a bell for some of you?
I think it does. I think it does.
I know for me, I was a yo-yo dieter from when I was 6 to when I was 20, right? So that's a decent amount of time, and on and off these crazy diets, and never really keeping the weight off all those years until I really changed my mindset. And that's why the Live Balanced and Bold program, my 5 steps for transformation, includes these very steps, the important steps of setting the strong intention and sticking to it and getting your conscious mind on board with that this is a strong intention and you're going to move forward in this way, no matter what it takes, being firm with yourself and holding yourself accountable. That's a big one.
It really is. It's like putting up your shield when others are seeing or saying things so that can not penetrate and really setting your personal intention. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens if someone is on this journey and it's the yo-yo, and they've seen some results, but something does happen? I mean, things do happen
Mm-hmm.
that cause us to have to shift, and we fall back and we feel guilty. And how do we keep to the forefront of that?
So I think one thing that we can do is realize and recognize that states of mind like guilt, shame, and blame, for example, which you just described, which is common. I mean, we all get into, not I will say everyone, but many of us can get into that guilt, shame, and blame when we fall off the wagon, so to speak, and we go and eat ice cream and milk products and or meat or something, whatever it is. And we have to realize that everything happens for a reason. Number one. Number two, we have the ability. When we think we failed, it's really not a failure. It's an opportunity. And if we can remember to look at it as an opportunity to learn something from that, to pay attention to and be observant of how we feel, what happens, why did we do that? What is it that we can do differently to change that for the next time when there's an opportunity to eat something that's we know is not supporting the health that we want to have, the vibrancy that we want to have, and to use our mind. Thoughts, feelings, and attitudes are simply energy. And that energy can be shifted with our conscious mind. So we can actually learn to practice shifting our mind states just by using our conscious mind to do so. And a lot of us we didn't learn that in school, right? And our parents didn't teach us that, right? And this is really the benefit of a lot of the recent science that's and research studies that have shown us that states of mind are energy. And if we look at it from that standpoint, then we can think, oh, well, all I need to do is shift it. The great thing is that if we can recognize and catch ourselves with our own awareness when we're exhibiting some negative self-talk, right? Even the shame and guilt can be negative self-talk, Oh gosh, I feel so guilty. I mean, oh, I can't believe I did that. Why did I get into that ice cream? I feel bloated, and just that whole little loop that we can do. If we will just stop ourselves and say, okay, wait a minute. Okay, that was then, that was yesterday, or this morning, or last night. This is now. Now I'm not eating the ice cream. Now I'm free to make positive choices. What, and the word is what, not why did I do that, but what can I do now that will support my well-being and support me getting rid of this bloating, because I can go, what can I eat that will be whole and well, that I know how to shop for, and I know how to prepare, that I know will get and turn my body back to feeling better and letting go of that excess bloating water weight, okay, that the sugar and the fat, animal fat, will support us in gaining. So everyone falls off the wagon. I mean, even I, still, will have these little periods where I'll go and get something that it's not a really like an unhealthy thing, but it's an unhealthier thing that I normally eat. And I do that for a day or two, and then I think, nope, that doesn't work. It's just a reminder that it doesn't work. And it was nice when I did it, but that's not the way I want to live. And so then I go back to my basic clean foods that I know I love and that my body loves, and I'm back on track. We have to be kind to ourselves.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Well, Alicia, a lot of people wonder, especially getting started on this journey, what do I cook? Where do I shop? What do I buy? How do I buy this fresh, plant-based, whole food menu? Where do you shop? And how do you buy these items that you bring to your house? And are you the cook?
Yes, I cook for myself, and most of the year, and some of the year, I have trained my housekeeper to cook some basic foods for me. And so I'm very fortunate in that way. But for many years, I cooked everything all the time. And part of the year now, because I live in two states, part of the year I prepare all my foods myself as well. So I just get a little bit of help for some of the months during the year. And as far as shopping, I go and seek out stores that carry a wide variety of organic foods, number one, and the foods and condiments that I use to support my health. For instance, there are seaweeds that I eat because they have micronutrients and trace minerals. And that's a regular part of my diet, which I don't know if our audience is ready for that, but we'll see. But certainly all the vegetables and fruits. And I know there are a lot of, even though I don't eat vegan cheese products, I know there are vegan cheeses out there and whatnot. I don't choose to eat them. But I know those kinds of things are out there, and there are some stores that I know carry those specialty foods. I shop at Whole Foods. I shop at some of the local markets that do carry a wide variety of organics. I also use some mail order suppliers that I buy some of my grains and beans when I can't get them locally. I eat a wide variety of grains and beans, as well as the fruits and vegetables. And some of the grains and beans I cannot find here all the time that I like. There's some specialty things. So I will go online and buy some of those items as well. I don't know if that answers. Was there anything I missed?
No, that was good. And we did have a question. If someone isn't a good cook, how might they start to incorporate more fresh and whole foods into their diet?
Okay, great question. It's a newbie, right? Someone who's just starting out. Is that
Mm-hmm.
right? Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what I did when I first started, because I had a neighbor that was eating whole foods plant-based, and she actually was the one that introduced me to the whole concept. I just didn't know anything about beans and grains, dried beans and grains. I never saw them before, really, or paid attention to them. So what I did is I just took one thing. I don't remember if it was brown rice or tofu or whatever it was. And I just took one thing and just learned and just got recipe books. There wasn't YouTube before when I was doing this, where you could just, watch people do this and you could copy it along, which is really great today. But in those days, I just did one thing. So I added, instead of having a chicken or meat one time a week, I learned how to make tofu, and I tried different recipes, and I burnt it. And I remember the rice. I can't tell you how many times I burnt the rice to start with in my pressure cooker. It was ridiculous. And you just have to stick with it, and you try different recipes and different things. Don't overwhelm yourself. Don't do too much at once. Unless you have a health condition, you really have to address it. But just for the everyday person that wants to tiptoe into what does it feel like to eat more vegetables, more fruits, more, and how do I cook this? Start with some cooking methods that are really easy for you. Get a little steamer basket, for example, for your regular saucepans, and put some water on the bottom, about an inch of water. And then the steamer basket, those fold open things that you see, and they're very inexpensive. And start seeing how it feels to have some steamed kale or some steamed bok choy. Bok choy is very sweet, when you steam it. You could wash it, chop it up a little bit, and steam it lightly, and it's a beautifully sweet, light vegetable. You can try some, when you're ready, some rice. I don't know if you've ever cooked rice before, but there are two ways that I recommend. One would be to cook it in water with the covered saucepan, and the other way is to pressure cook it. Now, think about different cooking methods. When you're in the cold climate, if you pressure cook and learn to use a pressure cooker, when you pressure cook that, the heat and the pressurized heat will actually energize that rice. So it will provide you more warming energy, and it'll provide you more physical energy as well. from the energy of the heat in that, I don't want to say with the pressure, right? In the summer, when it's warmer, then you can enjoy cooking rice in water. So and that will actually help you feel a little bit cooler and more open and relaxed and physically, what do I say, light, relaxed, when you cook it as opposed to cooking it in a pressure cooker. So we try to vary the cooking styles according to the seasons. So that's something else to think about and to learn about. And there are books on this. I mean, there's a wealth of information. I believe that what we were doing is I had offered a few book ideas too. Velin had asked me to do that. So that's a good idea as well, to just kind of follow on some of the books. And I can offer some more recipe recommendations too. I think we were going to share, Velin, I think we were going to share some recipes, right?
Yes, yes. As a matter of fact, in the email that was sent out, there were some recipes. And then on our website, justoneThingForHealth.com, you will find week 16, the information from week 16, and the recipes are there. There's some really great information there as well. Mm-hmm. And thank you, Alicia, because one of the things that we often get asked is, so where do I start? Is there a video that I can watch? Is there a book that I can read? And please do address that. What's your favorite video that someone might enjoy watching to kind of reinforce being in this space?
Well, I think Dr. Neil Barnard, who's the founder of the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, and he's one of our doctors too. I think that he has many videos, but the one I saw recently was the one where he gave a lot of scientific evidence on the value of eating whole foods plant-based and how it corrects health conditions and diabetes, heart disease. I think it's really inspiring to hear the scientific evidence and to know that you're on the right track, that this has been studied, it's really going to help. It's not just somebody said it's going to help, but it's really going to help you being on this life track and this life path. So I thought that was very inspiring. And he does have other videos. And I know Dr. Esselstyn, who's one of our doctors, he has many videos that are very inspiring and very, from a medically scientific standpoint, why are we doing this? Because of the health value. And to see the health value live on a video with the studies and the photographs and images that they show, the doctors that are have done the research, and they have been saving lives, hundreds and thousands of lives. I think that's very inspiring, and I think that's the way to go if you really need to be motivated to continue on this life path.
Excellent, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So let's change things up a little bit and let's go into someone's home. And, they've been doing things a certain way for years or however long, and now they're embarking on this whole food plant-based journey. What would your recommendation be to them to kind of do in their kitchens to, I guess, retrofit their kitchen for their new lifestyle? What are some of your tips for that?
I believe that it's so important to recognize and define for each one. Each person is going to define it differently, and define what have you learned, or what can you find out about the foods you're eating now? Which one or two things are the most offending foods for your body's health and well-being? You might need to study a little bit. You might need to reach out a little bit to for professional help. You might want to consider maybe some of the doctors that have had the videos already in this first 16 weeks or 15 weeks before me, and noticing from what they tell you, and you were able to say, oh yeah, well I know I need more of this because this doctor said it really applies to my health condition, and I know it would make a change if they say so, and maybe taking just a couple of items and just removing them from your house. I know that's very, very wow, right? Oh my gosh. Oh my God, my comfort food, right? But you know, even if it's just taking one thing this week or this month and eliminating it from your space and replacing it with just one thing, like just one thing for health, just one thing that you know is more healthful. So it's not like you're not, if hopefully you're not terribly sick and you don't need emergency crisis healing diet, but you can do this gradually. And if you can and have the luxury of doing this gradually, that's the way to approach it, is to eliminate some things that are very unhealthful that you recognize and identified as such for you, for your body, and then replace it and do your research and see what food you actually could like, you know, that you could replace it with, whether it's a protein food, whether it's a vegetable or fruit, whatever that is for you. So if you know that eating fried French fries is, you know, a luxury and you love it and you just will eat them like a couple times a week or every day, right? And you know that that's not healthy because it's the kinds of fats that are in there, you know, help form plaques and in the blood vessels, and you think, okay, this is something that I'm really going to work on eliminating. So let go of that and bring in a healthier choice. Learn how to cook the potato and use sweet potatoes. White potatoes come from the tobacco family. The tobacco family is not as healthful as your sweet potato, okay? So learn how to make sweet potato, baked sweet potato fries, you know, where it's not seeped in that oil, that fat and oil. So learn something to do something that, get yourself some fun food, that healthy fun food that you love and enjoy to eat, that's in the healthy range of vegetables and fruits and protein sources that we recommend.
Awesome, awesome. Well, most of us are busy individuals. We're parents and grandparents with kids who are doing this, that, and the other. And, you know, one of the horrible things about the American diet is that there is so much fast food. Yet, when we're thinking about making this shift and living this new lifestyle, we have the same issues going on. We need foods that are fast yet healthy. Give us some tips on what some of those foods might be, where we might be able to obtain them, and how we can bring those in.
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say look for wrap places. You know, even in the airports, they have wrap. You see now wraps where they food to goes. You know, food to go. The burritos, the bean burritos. You'd want to ask if they're beans only or if they don't have bacon or anything in them. But certainly there are many restaurants that have that kind of food, the wraps, the bean burritos, the even tofu wraps I see out and about, you know, at the different places. I know like a Taco Bell, they have, and I don't want to support or promote any particular fast food place, but there are fast food places. You can seek out salad bars. Some of the salad bars actually have the garbanzo beans in there, and you can have a nice salad that you can make with the garbanzo beans, and that would be a nice meal on the go. Gosh, there's more places around for doing and finding fast foods that are healthful than you realize. And I think today there are so many places out there that if you do your research and you go in and out of these fast food places that are in your neighborhood, and you look carefully at what's available and what's appropriate, you'll find the ones that you'll gravitate toward, because they'll offer you things that do have a bean product for your protein, or a tofu type product, or they'll have a whole wheat wrap as opposed to a white flour wrap, things like that, so you can get more nutrition. So those would be the kinds of things. And some places will just make a quick stir fry for you, you know, like a veggie stir fry, just to kind of get you through that part of the day until you can get a more substantial meal later on. So I don't know, is that helpful?
That was great. That was great, because what I basically heard was where people have used, oh, I can't find this kind of healthy food in fast food areas. It's no longer the case. And I really appreciate that information coming through. So let's go to the high side of things, and we're in the holiday season. What kind of foods are considered or could be considered celebration foods?
Well, are we talking desserts now, or are we talking sweet potato pudding in an orange cup? I mean, what are we talking about here?
Well, yes. Okay. So maybe there's two parts to this question. You're going out and there's a celebration. What might you do there? And then the dessert side of things. So, yeah.
So if there's a celebration and there's a buffet or a sit-down dinner, it's basically up to you to get an idea ahead of time what might be served. I know I call ahead sometimes, the hostess or whatever. I even will tell people I follow a vegan lifestyle and or whole foods plant-based. It's easier to say vegan just because a lot of people don't even understand any differences, between the nuances of the different kinds of whole foods plant-based programming. And I'll call ahead and find out what's being served. And what I'll do is I'll even actually eat ahead, grab a little something in a container, even if I'm on the go right before I go to that event. I'll make sure I have something I can even eat in the car that fills in that part of the nutrition. We want a protein food. We want to balance what we eat. We want some grain if you're not gluten intolerant. We want a grain of some kind. And there's some grains that are not glutinous. So there are a few that are not glutinous. So that would be also good to know about and to research. And then you want your vegetables, and you want seeds and nuts as well for the healthy fats and oils. So those kinds of things that maybe would not be in a celebratory dinner, you want to have some of that base in your system to help balance your blood sugar and get the nutritional that you want. And then when you're there at that party or event, you'll be having maybe some of the salads that are offered there, some of the veggie. Usually at any of these events, there'll be a wide variety of things. The meat protein might be meat rather than tofu or tempeh or seitan, which is more in the whole foods plant-based range. But it's something that, or the beans. So you can always take a little bit of garbanzo beans, even if they're canned garbanzo beans, and you can put them in a little container. And if you're carrying a little bag or a little something, a purse or a bag that you can walk in with, then you can eat the veggie part of what's offered, and then just kind of place your beans from your little container nicely on your plate and eat that right along with the other offerings. So that's another idea. If you don't feel comfortable doing that because you feel a little bit exposed and vulnerable to what people might say, then the best thing to do is either eat those parts of the meal before or after the event to complete your nutritional, what you need nutritionally. I think that's important. And as far as, because really, if you want to stay healthy and create health in your body, it's up to you to decide how you're going to get the good nutritional quality in your body to sustain you and to create the health you want, bottom line. And I know for me, I didn't care what people thought. I just went to the restaurant and I ordered my salad or my steamed vegetable plate or whatever I ordered, and I just, my purse, after I placed the order or the food was delivered, I took the beans out of my purse, I put them right on the plate along with the steamed veggies, and I ate a nice meal with everyone else. And I didn't worry about what other people were going to think because I was busy creating health for myself. So that was just what I did. So then we were talking about dessert, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what I do when I'm out is I always look for fruit. If I either ask for fruit or I can ask, if there's a party or something with fruit on it, even there's a few little pieces of fruit. And then, so I'll be eating a little something with everyone else if it's not a vegan or whole food based dessert party or whatever. And I'll eat my dessert when I get home, my healthy dessert, because I know I'm looking forward to that healthy dessert. So it's really a state of mind. It's bottom line. We're talking about mindset again.
Yes, yes.
Mindset.
And I was just going to ask you, with what it is that you said about having the confidence to walk in with a group of people and pour your thing out on the plate and, still enjoy everyone's company and everything. That is totally mindset. How do you make your way to being that confident and having that kind of mindset?
I guess it all boils down to how strong our internal intention is to be whole and well. Because that's what drives me. That's my internal drive. And in the early years, it was fear of dying young like my dad. I no longer fear that. He died at 45. I've outlived him for, 71 now? So you know how many decades I've outlived him. So that's not a worry anymore. I do it now because I love how I feel. I love how I the energy that I have, and how I look and the energy to go do things in the world. I could have been a diabetic. My mom was diabetic. I had early symptoms of diabetes. I mean, I was with a cancer scare. I just, I probably wouldn't have been here actually if I had continued eating the way I was eating. And so for me, the gift of freedom from chronic disease thus far, I mean, anything can happen at any time. We know that. And yet thus far, I've been so grateful that I chose this kind of approach to life and kept on it, because now I enjoy so many things that I know I wouldn't have been able to.
And it makes me think, what many people struggle with, and that's defining self-love versus selfishness. And can you speak to that for just a moment?
So self-love, this is totally the way I feel about it. Self-love is, to me, being in a place of gratitude and appreciation for being in this life, on this planet at this time, and appreciating the things that I do for myself to be whole and well and to contribute to the planet and to people on the planet, and to be able to serve others. If I love myself in a way that allows me to go out into the world and serve others, then to me, that's self-love. I love and appreciate the fact that I can support other people's well-being and help them to have a better life if they so desire. Selfishness is, and I think all of us at times want to nurture ourselves. But I think selfishness has to do with nurturing ourselves to the neglect of others, perhaps. Selfishness is ego-based, and me, it's all about me. And that's what I see selfishness is. And doing things that serve myself to neglect of the others and other people around me. And so I think that's quite a differentiation there. Doing and self-nurturing oneself, or taking care of oneself to neglect of everyone else, versus the self-love, loving oneself and feeling such gratitude that what seems the right thing to do is to then help those around us. And that's the way I frame it.
Beautiful. I love that. And I think that's a great segue into my next question as well, about the dynamics of keeping or creating new habits. We've been on this journey of, comfort foods, and for a lot of moms, it's putting ourselves last. For a lot of people, it's the stresses that we use as excuses. And what would you say are the dynamics of creating a new habit, and what are some of the ways that someone might be able to begin in this creating new habits?
The nice thing about my ability to answer that question in a new way is that in recent years, scientists have recognized and discovered that there is a plastic ability of the brain to form new pathways when an individual with their conscious mind sets a very strong intention and follows that with physical action that's repeated. So there's a setting intention to create a new pattern, taking action steps to, along that focus of the intention towards the goal, and then repeating that new pattern over and over again. The brain actually creates a new pathway to cement and lock in that new behavior, so that that new behavior then replaces the old pattern and the old behavior. So we have now an understanding that the brain is on our side. It's gonna, if we do the work with our mindset and set the strong intention and do the work, do the physical work in our physical world. In other words, go and get used to buying the cruciferous vegetables and the seeds and nuts that we never used to have in our house, for example. And we repeat that pattern over and over again. That becomes the new dynamic, the new paradigm for our lifestyle. And thankfully, the brain is responsible for helping us to create those patterns. So that's the great news. And remind me again the whole question. I know there was another piece to it.
It was the dynamics of creating the new habit, and I think that you addressed it. Once we start doing this and get into the repetitive mode, our brain actually buys into it and helps us, reminding us of that. That is great. Thinking of new habits, are there any exercise routines that you recommend on this journey?
I do, actually. I got a couple. When I started out, I actually started out on, well, I won't say that. Years ago, before I was whole foods plant-based, my husband and I started jogging. So we were doing that. We were very young too. And so that was getting into a regular pattern of exercise. But when I really wanted to cleanse my body and to revitalize all the cells in my body and and boost my immune system and help my body clear, help the lymph system clear the toxins and so on. My counselor, my food counselor, my macrobiotic counselor recommended that I get a mini trampoline, which is called a rebounder. I don't know how many people have heard of a rebounder, but it's a specific kind of mini trampoline that has springs that allow for a very soft bounce so that the joints are not jarred by having a more taut surface on the rebounder, on the mini trampoline. And so I began exercising 3 times a day. This was while I was in the cleansing diet. I was rebounding 3 times a day, and I got up to 15 minutes each time. And that really did, the rebounding, I don't know how many of our subscribers know about what the rebounding does, but by jumping up and down on a mini trampoline, and these are the safe ones I'm talking about now, what happens is when we go up, we're unweighting ourselves, of course, and the gravity does not have any force on the cells when we're upweighted and on the jumping up, and then when we're coming down, there's gravity G-forces, which in a way kind of, and this is sort of cartoony, but in a way, the extra G-forces because of the pressure of the down movement of our body towards gravity actually kind of squeezes the cells and helps the cells push out through the cell walls some of the toxins. So it's really a healthy, cleansing way to diet. Now, my counselor tells me that 7 minutes on the rebounder, doing a lot, small little steps or jogging, like jog, on the rebounder is equal to the same exercise you'd get jogging a mile. So
wow.
Those of you that want to increase the value of your exercise and decrease the amount of time you spend exercising, Even though the recommended is 30 minutes, I mean, it always changes the recommended, how much exercise to get. But I know for years it was something like 3 times a week, 30 minutes at least, minimum, to the body. But if you get on a rebounder every day, even if it's 10 minutes or 5 minutes, and you do that routinely to start with 5 minutes every day, 5 minutes, just even bounce and just lift your heels off. You don't even have to do walking on it or light jogging. And just get in the habit. Remember, this is all about new patterns. And a new exercise pattern could be that. It could be getting out in the fresh air, walking for 20 minutes. How many of us can find fall? I mean, well, I don't want to say that, but walking for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and getting into a pattern of that, even if it's 10 minutes to start with, because you're not used to, or you're not in the kind of shape where you can even do that or feel like you're up to it, and build on it. Remember, small step size. Part of my 5 steps for transformation includes the action steps. And the action steps are always going to be something that is doable, that you welcome to do it, that you're happy to do the small step. And that that's a progression, and that you're doing something positive for yourself. And if you start small and you build on it, that's the easiest way, the most comfortable way to make change. And the more lasting way to make change. I did it that way myself, and I found that very helpful. And so many others that I've worked with have also enjoyed that process in that way.
Awesome. And I love that you brought your 5 steps back in. Please, for our audience, will you go through and recap those 5 steps again? And then I'd love for you to share how our audience might be able to connect with you.
Thank you, Vivian. I'd love to do that. So the 5 steps for transformation, we start with discovery. And discovery, what that means is identifying exactly what's not working. It's a self-assessment that you just take time to be quiet and kind of go inside your mind and your thoughts and assess and see what's not working. What are you being challenged by? Is it an emotional state, or several emotional states, or is it a life situation, or is it a little of both? Where's the challenge? What do you want to overcome? What do you want to move through? And so that's a very important part, because when you do that, that actually engages your conscious mind in wanting to create a solution and a strategy for overcoming that. So it gets the conscious mind on board. And so then moving on to the next step, number 2, is setting the goal, seeing the vision of where you want to be, and setting a strong intention with that, and holding yourself accountable to reaching that goal, no matter what it takes, okay? And so then with the goal in mind and identifying the stumbling blocks, then what we have next is creating action steps, right? Because we want the brain to use its plastic ability, which is called neuroplasticity. And we want the brain to engage fully in helping us create those new patterns. So we can do that by setting action steps. And again, I'll repeat again, the action steps are doable. There's something that you feel you can accomplish. And so even if it's a mini step, even if it's making a phone call or 2 to find out and get some information for that next step, then that's a success right there. Because if you hadn't been doing it before, then at least you're on the road. And sometimes it's much more than that, because it depends on your level of ability to accomplish those little action steps that will be created by you. And then from that, then we go to the 4th step. And the 4th step are the enablers. And these are the things that help enable the change you're looking for. And so it might be meditation, it might be journaling. It could be going out in nature, and it could be movement exercise. It could be Tai Chi, it could be Qigong, it could be yoga, Pilates, something that's going to help enable the change, to get you on a healthier track. It could be other things like that are more energy-based. There are flower remedies that help shift mind states for the better. There's an acupuncture technique that's like a meditation that involves tapping certain acupuncture points on the body and helping to remove negative and ease negative mind states. It could be, there are just so many out there, but those are some that I know I've worked with in the past with so many people that have gotten great results. And so those would be things that I call enablers. And because they help enable the change along with the action steps and your state of mind and you're setting a strong intention, then at the end, we're going to celebrate, right? The brain's done its job, we've changed our patterns, and then we're going to celebrate. But not just celebrate that we reached the goal, but every step along the way, we're going to be celebrating the very small victories, because each victory is an opportunity to pat ourselves on the back, let us know we're doing a great job, remind us that we're on the right track, and to continue that. And that gives us the inspiration and the motivation to continue. So those are my 5 steps.
Awesome. And Alicia, please let our audience know how they might be able to find out more about you and the work that you do.
Well, thank you. And the best way to check in with me, you can reach out to my website, and that is sirkincreativeliving.com. And Sirkin is SIRKIN, creativeliving.com. And I think we're going to print that anyway in the emails, so that will be there. You can contact me, and actually I offer a half-hour free discovery session for anyone that signs up on my website to meet with me, and we can talk about what your needs are, and I would love to have an opportunity to explain how my programming could be of great benefit to you and help you achieve the goals that you're looking for. So that's another way to meet me one-on-one. We can meet virtually by a video call, or we can meet by phone. And you can also call a phone number if you want, and that number is 305-666-5958. And I believe that's on the website too.
Well, thank you for that. And for our audience, you can always find Alicia and connect with her through the Just One Thing for Health program and on our website. So there's numerous ways to connect, and over the next several weeks, we are going to help you to connect with not only Alicia, but all of the other 15 doctors who've been a part of the program and shared their wisdom and knowledge and experience and how they're helping their patients to make the change to this whole food plant-based lifestyle. And I think it's important. I don't know why this just keeps coming up for me. There have been quite a few questions around, if I'm experiencing what I know is chronic illness versus just curious about what all of this means. I'm young, I'm healthy, I'm older, I'm still healthy. Why should I even consider doing this, and how intensely should I consider doing this whole food plant-based lifestyle? So I'll pose that as the last big question for you. And then I'm looking at the time, and I know that our audience has been here with us for a while. So if you might answer that for us.
Well, for those of our subscribers that are just curious and, what's in it for me if I really don't have chronic illness or if I'm not really sick at this point, I think that's a very personal decision, depending upon our age and what we're exposed to. I mean, I look at it this way. We are exposed to so many environmental toxins, toxic products that we know are in our foods, and there are a lot of things that impact us health-wise, even if we're healthy. I mean, just going and doing my daily power walk out in an area where there's neighborhoods and cars and exhaust and everything. I know I'm breathing in those toxic chemicals from the exhaust from the cars. But that's where I choose to, that's my neighborhood. I've got to, I want to get out and get my exercise done. So I do that. And I know that there are food products that I take in restaurants and so on that have toxic elements in them, then can be risk factors for heart disease, for cancer. And so I I think anyone that's healthy might consider moving more into whole foods plant-based, just to help maintain the health and to allow their system to hopefully excrete or let go of some of these toxic products by not ingesting some of the everyday foods that would have the kind of fats that might have excess estrogens, for example. I know many times the chicken is injected with estrogens, and excess of that, of course, can cause havoc in our body over many, many years. So, you know, it's all about food choice. It's all about how healthy do we want to be? How do we want to prevent disease in the future as we age? What do we want to do that's anti-aging? If I want to tell you the best secret for anti-aging, guess what? It's whole foods plant-based. At least that's been my experience, okay? So I think there are a lot of good reasons to explore adding more plant-based foods to one's dietary practice in terms of continuing good health in future decades. And that's what has happened for me, and I've lived it, and I see that it's been of great value. Even after I got over my health challenges and scares, I continue to do it because I want to live well for the future. And again, it's a personal choice. That's been mine. And I invite everyone to consider what works for you and what you believe is right for you in your life.
Thank you so much, Alicia. That was very wise, great wisdom coming. And, you know, when we're young, we think that we're invincible almost.
Yeah.
And then
for sure.
We get to the point where we're like, uh-oh.
Uh-oh, what do I do now? Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I better straighten out my act, you know, or clean up my act.
Yes. And we don't have to go there when we can balance things out now and glide more effortlessly, healthily into the future. So thank you so much for everything you brought to our audience this evening. This has been awesome sharing this time with you. Is there anything else, one last thing that you'd like to say to our audience before I bring things to a close again?
Yes, actually, I would like to quote Mahatma Gandhi, who said, "Man is but the product of his thoughts. What he thinks, he becomes." So I invite our audience, our subscribers, to think about what you're thinking and use the opportunity to use your mind to set a healthy path for yourself and follow it, because what you think, you will become.
Thank you. Thank you for that great wisdom. And thank you to our audience. Thank you for everyone that was on here with us live tonight. Thank you, Peter, for having this vision for this, and all of the amazing doctors that have gone before. And remember, watch your email, join us in Facebook, and rewatch the video broadcast that we're going to be sharing over the next few weeks. So thank you, everyone, for joining us. Thank you for all the questions that came through. Thank you, Katie, for your assistance. And I'm Velan Hawkins. I'm one of the Just One Thing for Health team. And it has been my honor and pleasure to be co-host of tonight's episode. And we will see you again over the next few weeks. Bye for now.
Bye.